We're going to, before we call the meeting to order, beforehand we had a great reception and honored the retirees, and we just want to mention that, and it was a great thing to do, and it was nice, and we just want to thank again all our retirees for their dedication to our school system. Right now we're going to call our meeting to order. The first thing we want to do is have a moment of silence, so please bow with me as we do that. Thank you. Next is our pledge, so please rise with me as we raise the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, say, I want us to sing sometime. A cappella.
Right now, board members, it's time to approve the minutes of the prior board meeting. They were in your packet. We've had a chance to look over them. Does anybody have any changes or corrections to the minutes? If not, I need a motion to approve the minutes.
Make a motion, we approve the minutes.
I second it.
First and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? I hear none. Motion carries. Next up is to approve the agenda. We have one small correction to the agenda. Line item, action item D, it says consider district wellness policy. Policy needs to be changed to plan. We already had a policy in place. This is just a plan of action to follow the policy, so we need to change that. So I need a motion to do that. So all in favor of approving this small change to the agenda, please? Need a motion to do that?
I'll make a motion to make that minor change to say consider district wellness plan.
Second.
So the first and second, any further discussion? All in favor of approving the agenda as changed, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? I hear none. Next up is recognitions, Mrs. Johnson.
She's probably out taking pictures, but our recognitions was our
recognition for the retirees. And Mrs. Johnson has one of the retirees, and so we want to thank her for her service too. We're going to miss her during this part of the board meeting, so we want to thank her for all she's done for us. Next up is the Treasury report. Mr. Lexington.
Thank you, Chairman Tarter, distinguished board members. I'm bringing the financials for the ending month, or June 30th, 2016. I'm going to start with the revenues. This month, revenues were up about $133,000 for a total of $3.443 million. Some of the notables on there are federal grants are up about $309,000, and you'll notice a line for FSPK, which is a building fund. We get that we get in 2 installments throughout the year, and this is the second payment, or the last payment for the year. So we'll go on to expenditures. This month, accounts payable was about $1.365 million, which is up $480,000 from the prior month. However, I think it's important to note that we are down $346,000 from the prior year. Payroll was at $4.2 million, and this is due to the 4 checks that go out for the teachers at the end of the year, which makes that increase about $1.693 million for a total of $5.571 million in expenses this month, which was an increase of about $2.174 million. The accounts payable breakdown in the month of June, approximately $1.018 million were grant-funded items that were paid out. They were closing out many of the grants at the end of the year. That's why you see an uptick in expenses at the end of the year each year. Utility expenses accounted for 9% of the expense, about $131,000. And variable expenses were about 16% or $215,000 approximately. Accounts payable breakdown, year-to-date reduction of about 22.57% in accounts payable in comparison to previous year. 88% of those of the accounts payable were attributed to general fund. Grants are also, again, this is part of the grants. Grants are also allocated in Fund 1 as well. So it's not necessarily all Fund 2 that accounts for grant-funded items. Of that 88%, approximately 11% was utilities, 80% was the fixed and mixed cost expenses, and 8.63 of that was variable. Total accounts payable, 37% of those were projects, again, the year-end closeout, and only 2.43% was SBDM. A lot of that is due to them just catching up on some of the last-minute things, because we try to cut that off earlier out in the year so we can wrap up the year easier. The ledger balance at the end of the month, cash on hand was $11.89 million, which is down about $2.189 million, and that's basically because of salaries and accounts payable. The bank balance was $13.125 million. Outstanding checks are $1.239 million for, again, cash on hand, $11,885,000. The breakdown of the cash balance, the general fund this month was about $10.759 million. That's down $2.671 million from the previous month. Special revenues were up. Pretty much the rest of it was a wash. So the total cash balance of $12.467 million is down about $2.214 million. Extended financial picture. I apologize for the size of this again, because we're trying to get as much information on here as possible. In May of 2017, we expect to have $13.7 million on hand. And again, this changes all the time because as we, reduce the amount of spending, I do think this is making a much better financial picture in the future. However, as I mentioned before, I'm still trying to take a stance if we need to keep cash on hand because we do not have bonding capacity. By 2021, I expect that we'll have about $5 million that we can borrow. So until that point, we cannot borrow any money. So we have to have cash in order to cover any expenses that are not covered by insurance. With that said, I know what I try to do is the bottom amounts, I'm trying to paint a picture so that you guys can see what the general fund balance is. So I plug in actuals for the current month, and then I pull out all of the federal, all those items that would affect, Fund 2 and building funds, debt service, all those sorts of items. And it's roughly about $2.4 million each month. So that's kind of what I wanted to show you. Now, I did an estimate to actual comparison. So basically I took what I said that the next month was going to be versus what it actually came out to be. And it was pretty close. So, I mean, in February, I estimated that there would be about $13.64 million. We had $13.773 million, so that's a 99% accuracy. In March, I estimated 13.8. We had 13.786. That was 99.9%. April was 13.529 estimate. Actual on hand was 13.43. And in May I estimated 13.3, and we came at 13.111, which was 98%. And in June, again, it was my estimate said 10.7 million. We came in at 10.759. So that's, as we start moving on beyond that, it becomes more shaky because of the progress that we're making. So I just wanted to give you guys that illustration. The last thing I did want to let you guys know about is that I've been in contact with our bonding agent and asked him to look at what we can refinance in this coming year. We have two bond issues that we can refinance. That should produce an annual savings of roughly about $44,000 on average over the next 15 years, and our bonding agent sent me an estimate of $662,929 savings over the next 15 years by refinancing it. I'm going to work with him to try to get that, or to get that on next month's agenda to get those bonds refinanced.
So that's $45,000 per year.
Roughly. I mean, so it fluctuates. I mean, next year, or for 2017, they estimate $42,790. 2018, $50,000, then it drops back to 45, and then it goes up to 49. It fluctuates. Any questions?
Anybody have any questions? We'll need a motion to approve the treasurer's report.
I make a motion to approve the treasurer's report.
Second.
So the first, motion by Margaret, second by Mrs. Hargrove. Any further discussion? All in favor of approving treasurer's report, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? I hear none. Next up, Mr. Playfinger, payment of bills and salaries.
Chairman Tarter, distinguished board members, thank you again. This month, I bring to you $208,215 in board bills. Of those, $61,000 is utility expenses, $111,657 is fixed and mixed expenses, $35,000 of that is variable. $132,000 is Fund 1, $12,854 is Fund 2, debt service is $61,696, and food service was $840. The notable expenses this month were the Old National payment of $61,696, which is our debt service payment, and there was a Reliance Communications payment of $9,433, which is, we are paying the bill for the school messenger that was approved in May.
Anybody have any further questions for Mr. Bloodfinger? I need a motion to approve paying the bills and salaries.
I move that we pay the bills and the salaries.
Motion's been made. I'll need a second.
Second.
Have a second to pay the bills. Any further discussion? All in favor of paying the bills and salaries, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? I hear none, motion carries. Next up is public participation. No name, thank you, Mike. So we'll move up to administrative report. Mr. McCarty.
Thank you, Dr. Tarter, board members. First thing, I got a nice little housekeeping. If I can get Chad off the camera back there. One of the things, Katie, they have us to do is go over our, we just have to go over our record retention schedule. Since Chad is our records retention officer, I named him, I'll let him go over exactly what this review is.
Chairman and board members, as a district, we're complying with KAR 1:170 and policy 01.61, which briefly states that we are reviewing and considering the needs of reasonable security. It's including the best practice guidance, including data security and breach notification best practice guide. So we are following that. A few of the highlights which we are doing is making sure our security on all our computers and servers is up to how it should be and set correctly, having secure passwords. Any rooms that have records are kept locked. Vendors who receive secure data, they have to sign an agreement with the district that they will follow these policies also. Users are made aware of websites or emails that are phishing or asking for personal information and how not to avoid that. We are trying to limit printing of secure data and prevent the use of flash drives to store secure data. This is a continual practice, and the district researches and enacts measures to ensure personal data is secure and data breaches do not occur. Do we have any questions on that?
No. Do we have any questions for Ms. Wells?
Thanks, Chad.
Check that.
The next thing on my superintendent report is an update on the READ 180, System 44, the Reading Intervention Program. Kathy, it's your baby.
Thanks, Mr. McCarty. I wanted to update the board on the READ 180 program, and more importantly, I have two distinguished guests who have the real information about it to bring us those details. But first, just to remind you that back in the fall, the Martin Foundation approved a grant for $115,000 to implement the READ 180 program at the high school. We were already halfway through the year, and their schedule let us do that easily. The reason we felt that was important was to address the reading proficiency issues that showed up in the 2014-15 testing. At that time, 40.6% of 10th graders were reading at the novice level, which is the very lowest level. And when you look at the 10th grade boys, almost 49% of 10th grade boys were reading only at the novice level. The grant came in and got it in place in January at both high school campuses, and I'm delighted to say that we've had wonderful results that we'll hear more about, but also I'm more delighted to say that the Martin Foundation found that the results were solid enough and approved the second year of our plan. So they approved an additional $133,000 grant that will fund the program at both middle schools for the 6th grade. Additionally, we ran into a whole lot of technology problems at the high schools with outdated computers, headsets that weren't really compatible. We didn't have the tables and chairs we needed for the appropriate setting. So the foundation has also approved funding all the technology needs that all of those schools have said they needed, as well as all the supplies they said they needed. So in other words, the middle schools needed round tables and chairs and ThinkPads for the teachers. They made up a list. That's all going to be part of this grant. The high schools needed all new computers because they were spending more time trying to get the computers talking to the software and not teaching the kids. So all of the high school at West Campus has all new computers. East Campus said they thought they were fine for now, but we're getting them new headsets so that everybody should have everything they need to remove the obstacles. The Foundation Board is also supportive, and the plan remains for the next 2 years to expand the program for an additional year of the middle schools. So this year it will be in 6th grade, next year we'll add 7th grade, and the next year we'll add 8th grade. Additionally, the Foundation is paying 100% of any cost of this program for the full 5-year period. And because of the way the licenses are, that's when we'll receive 99% of the cost, because they are lifetime licenses once they're purchased. So I particularly want to thank the administrative team, as well as particularly Paula Rager and Mary Turner, who just went above and beyond and then turned around and did it again backwards, trying to figure out how to make this work on a short notice. So they spilled the blood, if you will, to get through our test market, and now we've got that done, and we think we're going to have it in place. But I'm particularly thrilled with who you're going to hear the real results from, both from what we achieved and also what else has been happening in this area. First, we're going to hear from Dr. Karen Burke. Dr. Burke is the Executive Director of Academic Planning at Houghton Mifflin Harcourt. She's been in education for over 30 years. She serves students as both a classroom teacher, a principal, a Title I director, a curriculum director, and an assistant superintendent at schools in Maine. She served as a distinguished educator for the Maine State Department of Education, and she's currently an adjunct professor at Nova Southeastern University in Florida, working with graduate students. After we hear from Dr. Burke, we'll also hear from Ms. Stacy Muir. Stacy is the field sales manager at Kentucky and Indiana for Houghton Mifflin Harcourt, and she's been very involved in the program in Christian County, where it's had great success. And I personally want to thank Stacy for answering 57 million emails from 57 million people as we've tried to get this sorted out. So with that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Burke.
Thank you so much.
Okay, this brings back shades of my assistant superintendency with the 13-member board. So I'm delighted to be here today, and I thank you so much for your hard work. I live with a former board member as well, so my husband had an opportunity to really support education in that way as well. And I want to first thank you, because it's almost a thankless job until you get a chance to see teachers that you saw tonight and those wonderful kinds of things, students graduating, and more importantly, sending students out into the world who are really prepared. And what happens often as we see going through education is oftentimes students come to our high schools and they haven't made a year's progress in a year. So they come in reading at ninth grade level, in ninth grade, at maybe a third grade reading level, a first grade reading level, a third grade reading level. And those students, if we think about the characteristics of those students, they don't have the characteristics or the solid comprehension to really tackle the challenges of content, such as science, social studies, even mathematics. And so what we need to do, and what you have really taken some amazing steps to do, is to really support students to not just help them mask, but to accelerate their learning. And what Read 180 and all of the research, it is a research-based program for over 30 years, and it has continued to evolve with the research from Vanderbilt. We know that one of the things we have to do is always make sure that these students have the opportunity to really get to the rigorous material. It's not just important to read where they're reading, but to move them to the next levels. And as we move them, that has to be scaffolded. It has to be scaffolded in a very specific way so that those students can not only learn to read where they are and do that, but also accelerate. So the idea with intervention and with Read 180's support is to really do this process. It's not so much the program, that's a vehicle, but it's really the teachers who are driving the process. And without the teachers and that professional learning that they get connected with this program, we would not have the outstanding results. I have an opportunity to look at results across the country. Arizona, California, Maine, Maryland. I was just in Georgia last week. I'll be going to Philadelphia very shortly. So as we see these students, it's about looking at that acceleration. So the first leverage point for students is making 1 year's growth. Because these students don't know what 1 year's growth feels like. They've made 4 months or they've made 5 months growth, but once they feel that 1 year's growth, it's time to be able to accelerate. So that success breeds additional success. So the Read 180 program is really, with the effectiveness of your teachers, is really there to support accelerated learning, to close the gap. So students might move from a third grade reading level to a sixth grade reading level. And you might say, but gee, Karen, they're still not on grade level. But when we think about the characteristics of what a third grader proficient reader can do and what a sixth grade reader can do, I'll take the sixth grader in my high school anytime, because he now has that opportunity to access all of that great resources that you have in every other content. So we know too that some students come to us with other needs, and so it's a building continuum. Maybe it's System 44. Oftentimes our students don't have foundational literacy, and that foundational literacy is so critical because it allows those students to really master that comprehension. And we want comprehension now at such a deep level. We want them to be able to read on the internet. We want them to be able to see a video. We want them to be able to compare something that they've read. All of those pieces across those disciplines and across those types. So Read 180 and System 44 both build that foundational literacy piece, and the content is connected to all of the content that students are seeing in your science and your social studies, and in those classes where they have to build the understanding of the world. More importantly, they've got collaboration They're working with each other, and additionally, the writing is intense. So there is intense types of writing every single day that those students are doing. The students now will have an opportunity to really have some mnemonic devices and some graphics of how do I do this and what do I reach back into my memory to really understand how I take that writing forward. So through technology, through effective teachers, and through resources that allow us through data to assess what the students need and to provide that based on the data, we can move students forward more quickly. And the whole idea is not to rush through things. So I don't want you to mishear what I'm saying. What I'm saying is the students get to internalize it and then to transfer that to other areas. So through this program and through the process of this program, it really allows students to accelerate their learning and to make significant gains. Stacy's going to talk a little bit about the gains that she's seen, but I want to tell you what the possibility is for students. 2, 3, 4, 5, and even 6 years growth in just 1 year. That's outstanding and astounding. So what we want for students is this acceleration. Always going from where they are, but taking them and making sure that they have access to on grade level and above grade level material. The ceiling is very high, so students in high school are getting students at high school and college level reading. So they have that ability to go as far as they possibly can. And I want to thank you for having the foresight to support and to help every student reach what we want them to do is their full potential. Researched, blended, using technology, but most importantly, using effective teaching techniques and the effectiveness of your teachers in both small and whole group settings to promote and extend the learning ability of all of these students that are in there. So I'm going to let Stacy talk a little bit, and certainly we'll answer any questions as well.
Thank you. And I have had the pleasure since, I guess, around October to work with the administrators and the teachers here in Muhlenberg County, and it's been wonderful. We come in as the Intervention Solutions Group, which is part of our company. We come in and we develop a partnership with the district. So we really feel like a part of that district, and the commitment that we have seen with these programs has been outstanding. And it is my pleasure to honestly say that we did an end-of-year gains, and in 3 months of using the program, essentially 12 weeks, you had students that made 1.5 to 2 years growth. And that is outstanding. And we're talking students that actually had Lexile gains that were in System 44. And we have, and Mr. Perkins and Ms. Roberts has that data. So that is available. But thinking about that 3 months that you had for that initial part of the high school to use that program, imagine what we're going to do in a year's time. And we're so excited. We've been in here training. We come as a team. We have a team of support that we are committed to the district. Not only do you have myself and the sales team, but you also have a full team of trainers and coaches that are working with the administrators, the school leaders, and the teachers on a daily basis. We have technicians that come in when we do have issues that we can make sure we can identify and solve the problem. And we will come in mid-year and end of year to share gains and let you know exactly how your students are progressing. We're super excited, again, to see the results that you had in 3 months. To give you a little idea of what maybe down the road, you have some neighbors very close in Christian County. I've been working with them. I'm starting my 4th year of working with them. They have the full continuum of the intervention with iRead System 44 and Read 180. When I started working with them, they were at the 17th percentile in the state. Gradually, over the course of 3 years last year, they were at the 67th percentile. And this year, they are looking to have a lot of their schools in the proficiency range. And it was literally a continuum of working together to see those gains. And as Dr. Burke talked about, what we are seeing is that as these students gain these reading skills and gain that confidence in their reading, it's spreading across all the curriculum. It's touching the social studies classroom, it's touching the science, it's touching the the arts and humanities. It's touching every part of the curriculum, and it's giving those students the ability to really get what they need to go out and be a part of the community when they graduate. So I applaud your commitment to the students here in Muhlenberg County. We thank you for the opportunity to work with your district. We thank the foundation for reaching out and providing this, and we are here to help you and to partner in the district, and please feel free to contact us at any time.
And we look forward to bringing you data on a
Yes.
regular basis. So that you can
Absolutely.
see, the growth, as this year was really an opportunity to really get started and to really kind of see, so the teachers could have a feel. But it's because of leadership, and it doesn't matter where I go across the U.S. It's about leadership and teachers working together for the students to really promote that reading. And it's not reading for Read 180. It's not reading for System 44. It's reading for life. We're educating the future leaders of our country, and we certainly need to assure that they have great literacy skills.
You got a question?
Sounds good.
Stacy, I got a question real quick. In sixth grade, they go into the program and they're doing intervention. What's a typical day for a student that does this? Is this a set of, the intervention like we have RTI? So when this student goes in, I know different schools have different blocks for RTI. So this child per se, how much time per day is spent
60 to 90 minutes, depending upon the school and the implementation plan that we've worked with those school leaders on. It is a blended learning model, so when they come in, there's academic vocabulary, anchor videos, types of anchor content that they'll do in whole group, and they'll break up into 3 subgroups, and they'll do 3 rotations, one on an adaptive software, and that adaptive software allows them to focus on the things that they don't know and fill those gaps, and it fast tracks them through the things that they already know. And that's how we get that accelerated progress. As they're working through that software, they're also continuously being assessed by the software, and they don't even realize it. That assessment feeds the teachers the actual skills that we need for differentiated instruction in small group. So while some students are on the software, another small group is going to be working with the teacher on those specific skills that she has been told these students need to work on. Another group is going to be working on independent reading, because we know that they have to apply the skills that they're learning in order to continue it in life. So we try to develop that in the independent reading and having them carry those skills over. Then they will come back together, and because we know that we need to talk about what we've learned, we need to discuss it, and we need to get ready for the next day.
Okay. Sixth grade, they go in, say they're at third grade, and they're the sixth grade, and they go into the intervention. And say by eighth grade, you've got them caught up. In other words, they're mainstream just like the other ones, and their skill level is the same as their peers. They go into high school. Is there a safety check, I guess? Is there a way to, in other words, if they exit the program, do you go back and assess them like in the 10th grade? Is there an assessment program that kind of say, are you falling back, or are you staying the same? You've still up the skill to read, you're mainstream now, and you've got the skills we want you to have?
That's a great question. We have a gradual release model. So as we know, they're in kind of a protected environment when they're in, and they get very close to the teacher, very comfortable with that environment, and then they go to the core classroom. So we have kind of a gradual release model that we work, and we're also focusing on stretch activities while they're doing that intervention. So they're having exposure to core level, so it's not so much of a shock, and we know that they need to be exposed to that for state level testing. As they go, we do have the reading inventory that is embedded in the program, so that is an assessment that we can check the Lexile level. We know that K-Prep also is a checkpoint for Lexile level, and then typically most schools have either, and I'm not sure what you all have, I think it's either MAP or MAP. So we look at those assessments, and as we conference with teachers and we look at that, that's why we are in constant communication with the building administrators and with the teachers teaching Read 180, so that we can look and see, are there other issues? Let's look at this as students. Was there some summer slide? Was there some things like that between middle school and high school? Those are definitely things that we work on with the teachers.
But all of the longitudinal studies that we have done, and not us, but third party, Gold Standard Research has shown that it's about 97% of the students retain and continue. So it's really just great results. And
sounds like a great
so
program.
the longitudinal piece is the critical piece, right? Absolutely. Thanks for that great question.
Right.
It's a great question.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah,
And
thank you.
thanks, and Martin Foundation as well.
Yes.
Thank you, guys. Thanks, Kathy. Next thing on my superintendent report is Gatton Park update. I've been playing phone tag with Mike Ritchie for the last week of the Gatton Foundation. We've settled on a date on August 19th, and I got an email from him right when I walked in here that we were going to meet at 5 o'clock at Bremen Elementary. One thing I wanted to do when we got the will in from Miss Gatton was to make sure that this park is something that the people of Bremen want, and that so from the very beginning, I've reached out and informed a committee, or let them form a committee. Right now, who we got on this committee member who's going to be meeting with Mike Ritchie on the 19th at 5 is Alan Miller, the mayor of Bremen, Stephanie Rager, school board member, Robbie Davis, principal of Bremen Elementary, Eddie Lewis is a PE teacher from Bremen Elementary, Sean Rickert is a parent of a student at Bremen Elementary, and I'm pretty sure is she on the site base, Stephanie? I think she is.
His wife is.
I think so. And Ricky Allen, who's an SRO in our school system. So Mike's really excited about what we're doing, and I'm really looking forward to the people of Bremen sitting down with them, and this will, I think, will move pretty quick when we get started on it. As of right now, again, it's just the Gattons have been really good to work with. It's not going to be any cost to the school system to build at this time or even maintain it. So this is a win-win for everybody down to Bremen, for us. So just want to give you that update. The next thing I want to update you on is our opening day schedule. First thing on the Salute to Education, I want to thank Old National Bank, and I'll talk to Peggy personally probably tomorrow, and the Greater Muhlenberg County Chamber of Commerce for providing the breakfast and lunch for our staff. We did that last year. This is the second annual event to thank and honor our staff for all their hard work and the stuff they do for our kids. So I really appreciate them doing that again. The elementary staff, central office personnel, the Renaissance Center and Maintenance Department, it's from 7 to 8 at the Muhlenberg County High School West Campus Gym and for breakfast. And then all the middle and high school staff and central office leadership team and transportation department will be at Muhlenberg County West Campus from 11:30 to 12:30 for lunch. So that's where they'll be before they come in here for our opening day ceremonies. The opening day presentation, the elementary staff, central office personnel, and Renaissance Center Maintenance we'll do an 8:30 sign-in here at the Martin Hall, out in the front, at the Muhlenberg Radio Station, Muhlenberg County West Campus, the front hallway. And the opening day exercise are just an hour. I know that's one thing that when teachers, they're here, they're ready to get their room. So we really cut this down as far as that. Middle and high school staff, central office leadership, and transportation department will register from 12:30 to 1 at Muhlenberg County High School West Campus, and 1 to 2 will be the opening day here. So what's going on at Martin Hall? Kathy, I want to thank you for funding John Petts. I'll do a little opening message and welcome, but I'm telling you, if you haven't heard John Petts, he's awesome. I've heard him at 2 different venues. What you can expect from John is a lot of humor, engaged audience. He's a big, high-energy guy. This is something I think that'll be a good day for our staff at Martin Hall to kick off the year on a positive note. Board members, I'd love for you guys to attend, if at all possible. He's a really neat speaker. So that concludes my superintendent report. Y'all got any questions?
What time's the speaker?
Well, it depends on which session you want to come to. You can come to the one in the morning. John will be speaking at opening day from 8:30 to 9 here, or from 1 to 2. And I'll get that out to you in an email.
May, say that again, May what?
John will be, there'll be an opening day to hear presentation at Martin Hall from 8:30 to 9, and then John will be back from 1 to 2 in the afternoon. And I'll put this on our website and put it on our social media sites as well. That's all I got.
Any questions? Thank you, Mr. McCarty.
Yep.
Up next is our personnel actions, Mrs. Browning.
Mr. Chairman and board members, the following personnel actions for the period ranging from June 16th to July 26th I have to report. Under the category of certified personnel employment, I have 14 actions. Under the category of resignation of certified personnel, I have 4. Reassignment of certified personnel, there are 10 actions. Classified personnel employment, we have 8 actions. Resignation of classified personnel, there were 4 actions. And reassignment of classified personnel, there were a total of 23. Are there any questions?
Questions for Mrs. Brown? Thank you.
Thank you.
Board members, we're at the board action items. First item, A, is consider elimination of the community relations specialist / community education position. As you know, Mrs. Johnson resigned earlier last month and took a new position with the Martin Foundation. We're sorely going to miss her and all the expertise and what she's done for our district. But also, we're in the situation where we've losing population of our students, we're losing state funding, and so any job that's come up or we have a chance to eliminate or at least consider eliminating, we need to take a look at to save district monies. So with that in mind, I put it on the agenda for the board to decide if we want to continue this. Gail did a lot of important things, grant writing, that type of thing, a lot of programs. I think it was, give me the word. A lot of drug stand, yeah.
Red ribbon rallies.
Rallies, that type of thing. So we as a board, Randy, you want to say a few words on that?
Yeah, I'd love to.
Okay.
One of the things that Gail did was the position you're looking at, the range of the salaries between 30 and 42. Probably you're looking more at 35. My guess is where we get to come in, we won't have the years of experience Gail has. 20,000 of that was grant funded for the position. And this person last year, Gail, brought in $130,000 for our district for programs for our kids. I laid all that out for you, the different programs. This is just huge for our kids with the STAND program and junior achievement and Muhlenberg mentors and substance use prevention, and it just goes on and on of the stuff that she did. A lot of the grants that she come up with provides a small portion of Ricky Allen's salary. She's also, or Gail was before she left, as part of our strategic plan stuff, that she was part of the process to make sure that we fulfill those. So I know Eric runs some numbers a day on return of investment. What was that, Eric?
The cost of the district at the current salary was about $31,602. The return on investment was about 311%, meaning that for that investment there was 311% return. So approximately $98,000. Excuse me, if you take the $130,000 minus our cost, that left about $98,397, which you would divide our cost by, and that's 3.11, which is about 311% return. So it's a very good ROI for the position.
This person's just responsible for a lot of the programs for our kids in our school system. So I really hope you guys look at allowing this position to maintain and letting us fill it so we can go on with these programs with our kids.
All right, so we have this item up for elimination. To do that, this is elimination of the position. This is not to create one. So to be able to do that, I'll need a motion to eliminate the position. I think would be amiss as a board not to consider it. We're going in, we're losing funding and stuff. So at least all these, we need to, sometimes we're not into the position of have this and have that. Sometimes we have this and take this away. And so I'm just playing the good and bad advocate here. So I'm not saying do it. I'm not recommending we do it or not. I just think as a board we need to consider positions that come up for, like this, that we need to possibly consider elimination. Did a lot of good work. Some of these responsibilities could be delegated to other positions, and not to discontinue the programs per se, but let other people bear the responsibility of some of these programs. So just throwing that out there. I'll need a motion and a second, and then we'll vote if we do that, gets that far. If not, then we'll... So I'll put it out. Do we have a motion to consider to eliminate the community relations specialist?
I just want to say, on the KSBA conferences that we have attended, about 3 different times since I've been on the board, they have recommended that we have a specific person delegated to write grants for our district. And so, I realize that this is a very important aspect that Ms. Johnson has done in her job. I don't know if you do all of the grants for the whole district or just some as they, pertain to what you've sent out in the email, or Mr. McCarty. I too have kind of pondered on whether or not, some of these responsibilities could be delegated into a current position that we have. My main concern is I don't want to lose our programs for our kids, but does that mean if we don't replace this position, are we not going to have these programs? If those responsibilities are shifted to someone else, can we not still have the programs and get the grant funding as that person could, take on the responsibility for writing grants for our district? So that's kind of where I am on this. Like Dr. Tarter said, I can see both aspects, keep it and one person do it. You get another person in here, they're going to have to be trained as well, so that's going to take some time. That's just my thoughts.
Gail, we had a $20,000 grant for your position last year. Is that automatic, or is that just hit or miss every year, or is that just pretty much standard every year?
Well, I've done it for 17 years, that it is every year we have
To reapply, but it is pretty much, it's not like hit or miss, it's pretty much, it's happened every year, okay? All right, so we have...
You're going to be very hard to replace, by the way.
So we have recommendations by our superintendent to keep this position. Mr. Buzinger made his point that it's a cost-effective program for our kids. So to be able to do this, I need a motion in a second. If not, it will die of lack of motion. So I'll put it on the floor for a motion. Do we have a motion to eliminate this position?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Can we table it?
Sure.
And look at it in depth? It's got a lot of things associated with it.
Mm-hmm.
So before it's a yes or no, can I make a motion to table it?
We can.
And then that way we can come together and explore all the dynamics around it?
We can add it to a special work session sometime and explore the possibilities of what we could and couldn't do. That'd be a great suggestion. So I'll still keep the motion. We have a motion to table it, so I'll need a motion. Did you make a motion to table it?
I make a motion to table it so we can all explore all the dynamics around the position before we say it needs to be eliminated.
Okay. So we have
second.
So we have a motion to table this item. We have a second. Any further discussion? So I guess, Mr. McCarty, we're asking to not fill the position until, right now we'll table it, possibly have a special session, work session here in the immediate future and discuss it in more detail before we take action. So all in favor of tabling this item, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? I hear none. So motion carries. We'll table board action A. B, consider letter of engagement with Teresa Combs for special education / 504 legal services and ADA FMLA legal services. Mrs. Penley.
Letter of engagement from Teresa Combs to consider. Teresa Combs has long been a legal consultant for Muhlenberg County Schools through KSBA, and beginning in, this month, July 2016, KSBA will no longer be providing that service to school districts. Ms. Combs has joined a private law firm in Lexington. It's the MRR Law Firm, and she is offering school districts the opportunity to continue these legal services and benefits. Through this service, she will continue to provide conferences, on-site trainings, publications in the specialty areas of special education and 504 law, and that is also she will provide unlimited phone and email correspondence in these two areas, as well as be able to assist school districts with complaints and formal due process hearings. Through the ADA and FMLA service, this is a second service listed in the letter of engagement, and again, she will provide those trainings and conferences and on-site services for a fee of $600. So the first service would be for special education and 504 services for $1,200. The second service is the ADA and the FMLA for $600. In the past, this is a comparable cost to what we paid in the past, and it is special education funded completely.
So your recommendation that we approve this?
Absolutely.
Make a motion that we approve Teresa Combs for special education and the 504 legal services and the ADA FMLA legal services for a total, looks like $1,800 a year. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
So we have a motion on the floor. I need a second.
I second it.
We have a motion and second. Any further discussion? Any further questions? All in favor of approving this contract, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? I hear none. Motion carries.
Thank you. And your signature will be needed, Dr. Tarter, and Ms. Miller has your document to sign.
So your next step again, consider a contract for orientation and mobility services.
Okay. Orientation and mobility services might not be a familiar term to some of you, Ms. Rager probably so, but that is a related service that we provide through special education to students who are identified as having a vision impairment or having low visual skills. And until July 2016, we were able to contract with the West Kentucky Special Education Co-op for this service, but beginning in July, they are no longer offering that. So school districts are on our own to find a qualified and competent person to do that. We are lucky that the provider who has been working with our school district for quite some time is very close. She lives in Nortonville, and she will be able to continue to provide only the orientation and mobility component of her job, which has actually been the teacher of the visually impaired and orientation and mobility, and I think we'll talk about that in a few items over. But she has expressed interest in continuing to provide that service for our students, and we have a proposed contract. It's in your documents, and it would be for $75 per hour. We have a very limited number of students who require this service, and for the ones that need this service, it is provided through special education funds.
And your recommendation is to
enter into the contract.
Enter this contract for the mobility services.
And it's a one-year contract, so we would need to review that again.
Okay. So board members, we need to consider the contract for orientation mobility services. I'll need a motion to enter into this contract.
Make a motion to enter into the contract to consider the orientation and mobility services by Ms. Katrina Berry.
Second.
So the motion and a second. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor of approving this contract, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? I hear none, so motion carries.
Thank you.
Up again, item D, consider district wellness plan.
Per our board policy 9.2, our schools are required to develop a wellness plan that details how nutrition promotion and education, physical activities, and other school-based activities shall be incorporated in each of the schools. In the spring of 2016, we had several stakeholder meetings and had a lot of input from our local hospital. All of our schools were represented, school nurses, our UK Extension Office, the Muhlenberg County Health Department. We had parents on board, as well as district leadership. And the purpose of our meetings were to review sample wellness plans and then design one that's very specific for Muhlenberg County. So in your packet, you have, it's actually printed on 4 pages, but it's only 3. Page 3 is blank, and I don't know why. So, but it is 3 pages. The important part that you would want to know is that per state regulations, we are required, each school will be required to capture baseline data on nutrition, physical education, those things of the sort, and then provide input into that evaluation system. So we have identified what we would like to use for that, and that is the Alliance for a Healthier Generations Healthy Schools program. That's a free online tool that all of our schools will be able to utilize. Then we'll capture that data, and then that information is to be shared with the board as well as parents on a certain timeline.
Any further questions? So we need a motion to approve this plan, which is to help us with the policy already in plan.
Right.
So I'll make that motion to approve this plan.
Second.
So first, do we have a second? Any further discussion, questions? All in favor of approving the plan of district wellness, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? I hear none. So motion carries. E, consider the MOA with Hopkins County for services for visually impaired.
And just a moment ago, I explained that we, in the past, have been able to contract with West Kentucky Special Education Co-op for this service, and they're no longer providing that service beginning in July. So Hopkins County Schools was gracious and offered for us to utilize one of their teachers one day per week, and that is what we would need to cover the needs of our students. And so enclosed you have a contract, and it has a particular teacher's name and then also the cost associated. So to protect that information, I'll just let you read that instead of sharing. But if you add all the days up that we would need her, I'm estimating that it would be between $10,000 and $12,000 per year, which is a comparable cost to what we've paid in the past.
You heard Mrs. Penley's recommendation. Do we have a motion to consider the MOA with Hopkins County for visually impaired? I'll need a motion to approve this, the contract.
I'll make a motion that we consider the MOA with Hopkins County for services for our visually impaired students.
We have a motion to enter into the contract.
I second it.
Have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor of doing this, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? I hear none. Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Penley.
Thank you.
Next up is F, consider LGE KU Special Energy Project funding. Mrs. Blatzinger.
Thank you, Chairman Tarr, distinguished board members. The LG&E Special Energy Project funding was as a result of some of the renegotiations they did with the rate increases last year. LG&E and KU gave specific funding for projects that would result in a net savings of energy costs. There are two options available. The first one is that they'll fund us $9,000 unmatched for projects that we could do, or they'll fund up to $36,000, and those are matching funds. What I've done is I've spoken with Jimmy Fleming. We came up with a kind of a wish list of projects that we could do, and really the biggest return was for parking lot lights. This is kind of twofold because parking lot lights they're called hot spots, so it's really bright around the pole, and then it gets dark. Whereas LED lights, when they're running even at 70% power, create an even light pattern. So what we did is we came up with a list of the schools and used the LG&E and KU along with KSBA's estimates on savings. If we do the matching part of the project, which I'm going to make the recommendation to do that, it's an annual savings of about $14,000, and our cost would be $15,289.72, and that's a break even in time frame of about 13 months, 2.5 days, running these with the LED lights. After that, it'll be a continual savings of about $14,000 annually. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Include all the schools' parking lights?
It does, and there are some schools that we put some of the wall packs are basically the ones that are on outside that are anytime you can replace a halogen with LED, the current draw is significantly less.
So the item before us is consider the special engineering project funding, matching funds to, Mr. Blatzinger wanted to spend $18,000, is that right? 18 to match?
It would be a $15,289 cost to the district. Yes, sir.
With a savings of $14,000 per year. I'll make that motion. We consider this project funding in the matching funds.
I second it.
We have a first and second. Any further questions or discussion? Board members? All in favor of approving this energy project funding with matching funds, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? I hear none, motion carries.
Thank you.
Award surplus auction bid for band vehicles, Mr. Bledsinger.
Thank you again, Chairman Carter, distinguished board members. We received 3 bids, 2 bids for the dually, the F-350, and then 1 bid for the box van. I recommend we go with the highest bid for each one.
All right, board members, these were in your packet. Any questions? To approve this, I need a motion to approve the bids for these vehicles.
Make a motion to approve the highest bid for the vehicles.
We have a motion on the floor to approve the highest bid.
Second.
We have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor of awarding these auction bids for these band vehicles, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? I hear none, so motion carries.
Thank you.
Next up is first reading of the amended policy .07.1 food service school nutrition services. Mrs. Cooper.
Chairman Tarter and board members, I'm asking that you have looked over this in your packets, and I'm asking that you consider this to be the first reading of the amended policy.
And this is basically housekeeping of a policy that we don't really need anymore, right? Our policy of the changes in there we don't need. I'll need a motion to approve the first reading of this full food school and nutrition services. I'll make the motion.
I second.
We have a second. Any further questions? All in favor of approving this first reading of this amended policy, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? I hear none.
Thank you.
Thank you. Motion carries. Next up is the approve the first reading of the amended policy 09.36 school-related student trips. This is just a housekeeping thing. This is the amended policy. Board members, you had a chance to look at it, is relating to MCTI and taking kids to see performances during the school days. This is part of, we've been doing this probably about 15 years, but we've never had a policy in place, and these were added to the policy to, the reason we do this is at the end of the year, schools have to go through a program review to see how much they've supported the arts and humanities, and part of their review process to the state. And some schools do this to help with those reviews and their requirements by the state. We've always done it, we just never had it in a policy. So that's what the amended changes were, the policy. Though this is the first reading of that, so I'll make the motion to approve the first reading of this policy.
I second it.
We have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor of approving the first reading of this amended policy, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? I hear none. Next up is to approve the first reading of the amended policy for absences and excuses. It's just basically this part of these kids that are in the school day performances, that they get excused absence while they're performing during the day. Most of the time it's 1 to 2 days for performance for the year, but anyway, they've always done it, but it's never been in a policy. So this is the first reading, so I'll make the motion that we approve the first reading of this amended policy of 09.123.
Second.
We have a second, first and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor of approving the first reading of this amended policy, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? I hear none, so motion carries. Next up is approve the grant for bidding and replacement of the speakers upgrade to the audio system in Martin Hall. Mr. Provost.
Excuse me, it's a long walk from the booth as the audio engineer this evening. Chairman Tarter and members of the board, Mr. McCarty. I'm coming to you today to ask for your approval for us to begin the process of accepting bids for the replacement of the speaker system here in Martin Hall. A couple of things to give you an idea. When we were first when we were first created, this room was designed as a 400-seat high school auditorium. Over the years, that project grew thanks to the generosity of the Felix Martin Foundation and the school board as well into what you see today, which is absolutely amazing. But one of the things that did not grow in that process is an area of technology for our audio system. Now, over the years, I've come to the board as well as to the Martin Foundation to request grant funds as well as funds to repair, replace items, to do upgrades throughout the facility. But one area of concern that has never been addressed and now needs to be addressed are the speakers that are currently in here. If you are sitting in the middle of the room, you hear pretty well. If you go to the sides, you don't hear at all. You hear mumble, same thing in the balcony. So what it causes is it causes problems not only for events that come through, but board meetings, school programs, basically anything that's in here. You'll also notice that the microphones have to stay pretty low volume as you come further down the stage, because if you look above your head, that is the only speaker for the main portion of the room. So we're not able to turn it up very loud and not able to cover the room. So that being said, we've had some issues over the last few months that the Felix Martin Foundation Board of Directors were made aware of through events here that kind of, in all honesty, at times, were a poor reflection on us as this venue. So they stepped up and said, what can we do to help? I'm thrilled to tell you that tonight the Martin Foundation has agreed to fully fund this project so that in order for us to upgrade this one element, it is no cost to the school board. So what I'm asking you guys, what I'm asking the board's approval for this evening is for me to begin the process of sending out this project for bids, and then in the upcoming weeks to be able to award that bid. Again, this is no cost to the school district. Ms. Jacoby made it very clear to me a couple of weeks after submitting the grant that she wanted to make sure that all expenses were covered. The only potential, and even they want to cover that, would be we might need some personnel, maintenance personnel here to help on some odds and ends like electrical or some lifts or things along those lines. But again, they want to reimburse the district for those costs.
So you have Mr. Probust's recommendation he wants to approve the grant for bidding for the audio system upgrade. I said I need a motion on the floor to do this.
Make the motion to approve the grant for bidding and replacement of the speakers and upgrade audio system in the Martin Hall.
We have a motion on the floor.
Second.
We have a second. Any further discussion? Is this like surround sound?
I'll let you say it.
Pretty close. Okay. All in favor of approving the grant for bidding and the replacement of the speakers to the audio system Martin Hall, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? I hear none. Motion carries.
Thank you.
So the footprint of Martin Foundation is very well established in the school district. We want to thank them for that. This facility we have and all the things they do for our system. Next up is the board consent agenda. Board members, you had a chance to look in your packet. Mr. McCarty, everything in place?
Yes,
everything
sir.
okay?
Yes, sir.
I'll need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move that we accept the consent agreement agenda.
We have a motion to approve it. Need a second?
A second.
We have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor of approving the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? I hear none. Motion carries. Next up is I need a motion to enter into closed session to discuss personnel KRS 61.810F. I'll need a motion to enter into closed session to do that.
I move that we enter the closed session.
Have a motion to enter into closed session.
I'll second.
Have a second. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor of entering a closed session to discuss the personnel, KRS 61.810F, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? I hear none. So at this time, the board's going to enter a closed session. We thank you for coming. You're welcome to stay. I don't know how long we'll be in closed session, but we'll be, all right, we've come out of special session to review our superintendent's annual evaluation. I'm going to, yeah, we had to make a, we've already, we made a motion to come out of closed session.
Yes.
Okay, so we're in open session once again. There is 7 guidelines to the new superintendent's evaluation. There's 7 different areas. Our superintendent had asked us to just evaluate 3 different ones. One would be the strategic leadership. The other one was number 3, which is cultural leadership, and the last one was managerial leadership. So that was a recommendation by the superintendent, and the board agreed, so we would only evaluate on these 3 different areas. What I'm going to do to put this into on the record, so I'm going to read the comments that were made by board members and different ones and give our rating. The rating, there's 4 different ratings. One is exemplary. That will be a 4. Accomplished is the next one, developing, and then the last one will be growth required. And so I'm going to read off our rating, and then I'm going to read the comments made by the board. So we'll go into permanent record for our superintendent evaluation. And so we've made comments by the board members that I'll give to our secretary when we're done so she can put these down. The first one, strategic leadership. The board has given a developing rating, and I'll read the comments to that. The superintendent is not respected by his peers, teachers, students, board members, community of the district. With declining test scores, no new innovative ideas have been implemented other than what KASA has planned for him to focus on and represent. One is, another comment was, during the hiring process is sometimes not honored. The candidate who is most qualified and knows the most about the position is not hired in favor of the person who the superintendent knows the most. This pre-selecting of people for positions before the interview process needs to stop. This creates a poor working condition and hurts morale in the district. Further comments were, he hasn't addressed the trust concerns from phase 1 data, and he has communicated info from telesurveys that need to be addressed. That's the strategic leadership evaluation. The next one is the cultural leadership, which we gave him 1.5, which is between the growth required and developing, and I'll read the comments from that. Where am I at here, guys? I did. The superintendent has successfully passed along findings in investigation measured by KSHA. He hasn't attempted to integrate any new ideas and guidelines in order to immediately try to improve the known problems of the district. The superintendent picks and chooses certain leadership team members to help manage the district. The superintendent doesn't plan to utilize the assistant superintendent who is very knowledgeable about his areas in which we have huge concerns. I don't feel the superintendent has the qualities to able to integrate critical thinking in the initiative to normally persuade and implement changes positively in the district. The superintendent should have more influence in the school principals and site-based councils in order to maintain proactive decisions and management of allocated funds and resources. Well, let's see. I think that's everything. All right, and the last one is managerial leadership. We gave a rating of 1.5 between developing and growth required, and I'll read you the comments of the board from that. Does not enforce rules for the district. The superintendent does not utilize his duties that are assigned to him. For example, the hiring process lets other peoples do hiring for key positions. Poor judgment in exercising $1,000 spending allocation to have 3 retired superintendents that come and interview for certain jobs, i.e. the Director of Pupil Personnel Director position. We receive needs assessment each year. We aren't given any info to follow up what we are doing for needs assessment for the schools. Have not enforced rules and guidelines for our district. No mention of high school reconfiguration plan that's already proposed correctly. In February 2016, the first presentation of the proposed salary schedule, the Director of Personnel stipends were not changed according to board action. A year before, in July 2015, we decreased the stipend from $15,000 to $5,250, and our financial officer didn't honor the board action. After that session, the stipend was lowered, changed to what the board approved. Board members, is this what you had in the meeting?
Yes.
Yes. All right. Any further action by the board? Is this what you want to put into the permanent record? Any objections to what I just read? So the consensus of the board would be these evaluation. Go into the permanent record. Sherry, I'll give you these to put into this file. I'll need a motion now to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
Have a first and second. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? I hear none.